Jake, now I'd like to talk a bit more about Houston Outlaws. Houston Outlaws, which is one of the good surprises of the start of the 2021 season. Perfect in the May melee, 4 wins before being defeated by the future champions, Dallas Fuel. In June, with 3 wins and a lose, you're going to participate again to the playoffs. Did you think it would go that well for Houston this season?
I definitely would say coming back to Houston, I don't think I would have done it had the roster not looked the way it does. I mean, our team is like pretty incredibly stacked. I mean, personally, I'm a big believer in all of our players and their potential. So for me, I'm not too surprised that we're doing this well. For us, it's like in line with our goals. You know, if anything, I think the thing we're focused on is that, you know, we were defeated in the last tournament, and for us, the 4-0 is like, yeah, that's nice, and we're doing okay, and we can, you know, stay motivated and have a good mindset. But at the same time, we want to win. We want to go to Hawaii. We want to go there and then win some more. So I think for us, we're not satisfied yet. It is nice, I'll say, to be part of a team that is so good and wants even more. But I always knew coming into this roster with, you know, how insanely stacked it is that we were going to be one of the best teams. For me, that was like the expectation. And then the question for me is, you know, can we be the number 1 team? That's the real goal we're striving for. Whereas before, maybe we're trying to break into that upper echelon. Now we're really trying to take over and be truly the best and be the winner in the end.
But what has mainly changed in the team?
It feels like everything, honestly, from season 2 when I left. You know, with Cool Matt now as the GM, he's been making great decisions. We have Junk as a coach. I think Junk is someone I can't say enough about in terms of how much he brings to the team. Really, really smart, incredibly dedicated. You know, pushes the team to a higher level every day. He is able to work with our Korean players and our Westerners and bring them together. Contributes a lot on strategy, contributes on pretty much every front. So there's not many maybe there's no coach in the league as good as him in my opinion. So from a head coach perspective, I feel like that's like the core of our strength. And then we've got, I mean, just every single role is like really stacked. We have insanely good players. You know, a great balance of experienced talent who are, you know, top tier, and also up and coming players who are competing for that echelon as well, even though they're newer to the league. You know, we have a lot of players who I think are quickly proving themselves as among the best in their role. So, you know, from that perspective, I think there's no reason we can't win it all, and there's nothing really holding us back. We don't have any players I see as a weakness or as an issue or any holes in the roster. So, from my perspective, it's just about sort of making good on that potential and realizing it for professional play.
A word about a new player this season, Happy, who has been on fire since the start of the season.
I mean, Happy's a god. What can you say? I think I've been Happy's fan since before he joined the team. I remember enjoying casting him, and I mean, just thinking he was an absolute monster on the hit scan role. But what I didn't realize until him coming to our team is how incredible he is on, you know, heroes not traditionally thought of as hit scan role, right? Like he's a really top tier tracer. He's like maybe one of the best of the hit scan players who are like, you know, that's their specialty. I think he maybe has the best tracer in the league, and one of the best Hanzos in the league. You know, it's blatantly obvious he's one of the best hit scan players in the league. You know, I think no one can even question that. But then I also, my opinion is that he can play, you know, heroes on other parts of the DPS category also at a really top tier level. He definitely like works incredibly hard. You know, he's like everything you can in a player. There's nothing positive I can't say about Happy. Like just everything that you could want in a player and a teammate. And, you know, it's definitely, especially that role, which is so individualistic in a way, like, you know, it's the one role where you kind of want your hit scan player to like just play their game, you know, like everyone else can like, we'll work together, but like in the end, if the hit scan player is like, I want to do this, everyone should say yes and like trust that player. And when you feel that way, that's like the best scenario possible. When you're like, the hit scan player wants to take a flank, everybody is going to like just make space for that flank to work because with a player like Happy, it's going to work. If you guys do your job, he's going to do his. And having that confidence that he's going to be the better in the widow duel and the better in the hit scan duel, 9 times out of 10, it's a pretty big boost, I think, for the team overall.
Yeah, he's a beast, honestly, and he's a playmaker, as you said. I want to talk a bit about DANTEH, because he's also one of the main assets of the team, but he's as well one of your best friends in the league.
Yeah, I think, DANTEH is another player I think really highly of. I think he has a great ability to understand his role and sort of like exactly what he needs to be doing in a certain moment, and like how we can just get the most out of his heroes. I think his Echo right now is like one of the best in the league, so that's definitely getting a lot of attention. This meta where obviously Echo is super, super dominant, but I think he can play any of the flankers and has a pretty strong foundation as well, and just any DPS, right? Even playing hit scan or core projectile heroes still is pretty strong. So I think DANTEH is a player with like incredible potential to continue to develop over time and continue to improve. But he also at this point has that veteran experience. He's not going to crumble under pressure or have a bad mindset or bad mentality or bad focus. He really is pretty great on all those fronts. And he still has, I think, a ways to go to continue to improve and continue to grow. So, I think that combination in particular, DANTEH and Happy, is pretty deadly. And no matter what meta we play, I feel like we're going to be fielding one of the stronger DPS lineups in the league.
Yeah, you're right. And I was wondering, because Dreamer has also joined the team lately. To be honest, I don't really understand his recruitment, because JUNKBUCK has been doing a really good job for me. What can you tell us about Dreamer? What does he bring to the team?
I mean, one of the big aspects about Dreamer, I think, is his communication and his understanding of the game are both really top tier. I think those are two aspects of the game that you can't really see from the outside, no matter how much you watch the game. And I couldn't have even known that about Dreamer, without playing with him. So I think for me, it's been awesome to have him on board and contributing so much, not only playing but also behind the scenes. And I think for us, I can't say too much about like exactly why we want to pick Dreamer or JUNKBUCK, because they could both play all the main tanks. So obviously we have like strategic reasons why we would choose one or the other, but I can't say exactly what they are, right? Because then the other teams will have a better guess of what our game plan is. But what I can say is that it gives us more depth as a team to have multiple options on main tank, that different styles, different focuses in terms of what our strategy will be in the upcoming map, where we need strengths and where we so how we can like set each of them up for success. So I do think JUNKBUCK is a great player, and that's why obviously this isn't. I mean, both of them are sharing playtime, right? This isn't like a replacement situation. Yeah, like I think main tank just is a role where you can really benefit actually having a second main tank player. Like you can get a lot of value out of it, even if these players are never starting together and it's always one or the other. That stylistic differences can go a long way in giving us more strategic depth, making us more difficult to predict as an opponent.
Did you try out him, or did you just target Dreamer? We want this guy.
I mean, we did target him from the beginning, but he did play some tryouts for us. The scrims went pretty well, but we also knew from KSF, who had played with Dreamer previously, that he's like a great player to have on the team, great asset as a teammate. So we definitely had a positive impression going in, but from tryouts he was clearly really motivated, really wanted to join the team, and we felt like we could get value from him as well. So yeah.
And he's speaking both English and Korean, right?
Yeah, I think Dreamer has maybe the best English of any Korean I've ever played with personally. Happy also has like really good English, like talk about the game, and have like regular life, no issues. But yeah, Dreamer's on that same level, so it's definitely great to have like another player, no issues communication, and in some cases can ease issues of communication between other Korean players and Westerners. To have the mixed team is of course a challenge, but the more players we have that are bilingual, the better, right? Just like sort of simplifies things. Or if a player just needs to make a call, they just need to get it out, and the pressure of the moment, they can just make that call in Korean to the other Korean player. No one's gonna have an issue with that. So for us, I think we found like a really nice balance with a mixed team, how we do our communication and things like that, how we review and learn from each other. It's pretty seamless at this point, even though we're working with two different languages.
Jake, I'd like to talk a bit more about Coach JUNKBUCK. You told a bit about his influence in the team, but he's Korean. He's coming from San Francisco Shock. And I remember last year, I talked a lot with the Paris Eternal French players. Everyone told me, with Rush, with 9K, they rediscovered the game. That was a big change, a massive change for them. Is that the case as well for you and for the rest of the team with JUNKBUCK?
I would say Junk contributes a lot as a coach. I think, I've, had experience with coaches before who just don't have like a confident assessment of the game, but Junk has probably like the best assessment and the best reads of the situations. He's always bringing us back to the fundamentals of the game in a way that is really constructive and really, even for top level players, gives you something to think about and it helps you get better and better and better. Reminding you of how to have the most consistent strategy possible. Understanding what's the best. I think Junk is definitely made me a believer that you don't necessarily have to be that high level player to contribute in that way, because he can do it. He's the real deal. So for me, there can be no doubt really. Like after he's so good at not just figuring out what strategy to play. What's the best comp. If A beats B and B beats C, right? You figure it out. But for John Case goes way beyond that in terms of individual. One player need to approach the situation. How do they need to think about this? Do they need to talk when something's going wrong in a match? I feel like John is so quick to diagnose. This player, is a little bit off on what they're doing. In this, they need to mark this other player, and this hero needs to be dealt with. Or this ultimate needs to go off in a certain way. I mean, he has a really great understanding of the game. So, from the macro stuff to the micro details, he really does add a lot. And yeah, rediscovering the game, I would say that's a fair statement in terms of how he helps everyone on the team improve.
And is he close to the player, or does his method is very strict, or both?
I think there's a middle ground. Junk's definitely our, I would say our leader as a group. He's the one who's going to make the final call about a contentious issue where different players disagree. He's the one who's going to decide in the end. But I think everyone on the team in the end trusts him. And he does set a high standard. He does expect a lot from us, but he gives just as much himself. So no one can accuse him of being a hypocrite. And I think in the end, he's leading by example. And if he's going to call a player out or criticize, it's going to be for something that probably everyone can be like, yeah, well, I mean, I guess we all need to, come up to that standard. That's how it has to be for us to win. So to have someone like him who's so focused on achieving those goals, I think is just so important to succeed. I don't know if you really can be at the top without that type of mentality and that type of focus. And that's exactly what he brings to the team.
Does he speak English well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Junk grew up in Southern California, so he's completely bilingual, fully fluent in English and Korean. So, that's another aspect I didn't talk about, but that's it's like having your head coach. You don't need a translator for the team. Our head coach is a translator. He's completely, fully bilingual, which is pretty insane as well. So he sort of has the perfect attributes to succeed.
Jake, to end the interview, I have just a quick few questions. First of all, which team has impressed you the most since the beginning of the season?
Which has impressed me the most? I'll say Dallas Fuel. I think not having a traditional hit scan player, I think pretty much everyone looked at that and after Exy retired, it was like, oh wow, this is going to be so hard for them. But they've just changed the game. They've played it their own way. And I think that's really impressive. That's very difficult to do. You have to be incredibly good to make that work. And I think all the players on the team are proving every day that they are that good. Even being, I don't want to say handicapped, but strategically limited, right? They can't properly use all the strategies. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen them play Widow or something like that, and only rarely use the other hit scans. They still are an incredibly strong team. So, I think you have to give them respect that the players on that team are just incredibly talented and they can make that work. The coaches as well, that they can find the strategy that can work that doesn't need that missing piece.
You said that you were a big fan of Happy when you were casting the game. Is there another player in the league you're a big fan of?
I say it's different now that I'm back to playing because I'm sort of like my teammate's biggest fan, but I don't want to support anybody who's not my teammate, if that makes sense. Want to impress me. Maybe Fearless, I'd say. I think Fearless is like a major reason for the Fuel success. I think his Winston is like unmatched. Like I think we could say he's the best Winston in the league. You could probably, argue details there, but I think, pound for pound, I'd give him the title right now of best Winston. So that's pretty impressive for a hero with that kind of mechanical skill cap on the ultimate. I think he's just a force to be reckoned with. So I'd say Fearless.
And you're a specialist talking about Winston because that's the first hero you played and you reached the top with Winston.
Yeah, well, back then it was a game, like no one had realized the potential of pretty much anything in the game. But yeah, I mean, Winston was one of the first heroes I enjoyed, not really needing great FPS to play. But nowadays, with the way people are using the primal, it's a totally different game. I mean, there's almost no comparison. Back then, we were happy to just sort of disrupt the enemy team. Now you're, solo juggling multiple squishies. Get free kill here, free kill there, keep them off the ground the entire time. So yeah, that's something I can't pretend to understand or be able to do myself.
Yeah, that's a different game now. And talking about that, recently Aaron Keller announced that Overwatch 2 will be played as a 5v5. Were you surprised by this sudden and radical decision for the game?
Yeah, completely surprised. Like, obviously, I don't think anybody saw that coming. But at the same time, my reaction to it has been a lot more open-minded, I think, than the community at large. I think a lot of people have reacted really negatively, talking about how, we're going to miss all these aspects of having two tanks. But, I think from a design perspective, from a player preferences perspective, it's like tank's the least popular role. So, I think the devs are just saying like, well, if people don't want to play tank, we'll just don't make you play tank anymore. Like that seems pretty reasonable to me from the casual perspective. And then the other aspect of it from the design perspective is, the biggest issues with tanks are when they stack, right? Like everyone's going to say they're going to miss playing Ryan Zarya, or they're going to miss playing Winston Diva or Orisa Sigma or, whatever, like the combo tanks, because those combinations are incredibly strong. Like they're like maybe too strong. Maybe they're just so overwhelming that they limit your design potential for the Overwatch team, right? So, heroes like Orisa Sigma have this, crushing playstyle when you play them together. That's like brutally difficult to deal with unless you're running a very certain strategy that can punish it. And I think that can be true for a lot of the tank duos. So maybe in removing the duo of a tank, then you're much more free for each individual tank to have a more strong and clear identity, and maybe their potential can be higher than it is now. So, I can see the reasons for it, I think, pretty quickly after they announced it. And I'm just excited to try it and play it. I think nobody can really say how it's going to work out. But, for whatever reason, I do have faith that the dev team is going to make it work.
Yeah, hopefully. And Jake, since you are on a French show today, can you tell us which French player on Overwatch has impressed you the most and why?
I would say of all time, I would have to say Soon. I mean, I think he's just in a league of his own, with his pedigree, his experience, playing a wide variety of heroes at an incredibly high level for a very long time. I mean, he's kind of done it all as a professional player. Yeah, I think historically it has to be Soon. He's the one who I think of as sort of, being at the top of the French scene, and a player who always impressed me, not just for how he plays in the game, being one of the best, but also out of the game, seeming like a great guy, like a a good figure in the league for younger players to look up to. So yeah, I'd go with Soon for that.
Yeah, I can confirm. He's an example, one of the most professional player I've met in the scene, and we miss Soon in the Overwatch League. Honestly, in Overwatch in general, but he's now on Valorant, and we wish him the best. Jake, thank you very much for putting the American accent in the Bazaroid. That was missing. So thank you for allowing the French community to learn more about your background and your personality, Jake.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
And are you happy in OWL this season?
Yeah, I would say I'm happy. I guess that's a question I've started to ask myself more often these days, trying to be more aware of things like that. But I'm just trying to enjoy, day by day, moment by moment, have fun at the highs, and when times are tough, remind myself of what I'm doing it for, and what my goals are, and that I'm just very lucky to be in this completely unique is not even strong enough word, this crazy, insane reality of being a professional esports player, and just trying to enjoy it for all that it's worth. So I think I am happy.
Good to hear. Thank you again for sharing your experience with us. All the best for the upcoming playoff, Jake.
Thank you.